What is happening, fishers? Dean from Untraceable Fishing here tonight with Don from Bill Moria Fishing Tackle, and welcome to Tackle Tuesday.
Hi guys, tonight we're going to discuss all things braid. Our braid of choice is BOSS Braid tonight, but before we get into that, we've got a winner from last week, a lucky draw winner for the 250 Rand online gift voucher. It's Carl Vivier of Port Alfred, who will be in touch with you. Thanks for the shares and the likes, we really appreciate it.
Thank you, Carl.
Dean, braid is kind of like buying a 4x4. One guy's a Hilux Boykie, next guy says you'll like an Emmerich, next guy's a Ford Ranger. Some folks say they'll never touch a Ford. It's a highly conflicting, interesting whirlpool when it comes to choosing braid. What have you found?
Yeah, so everyone's pretty much going to enjoy their own brand of braid. But besides their own brand of braid, some guys, the surf fishermen, would maybe use a different braid to the guys that are fishing off heavy bricks and things, I find, you know what I mean? You might use a thinner profile of the surf to get some better casting distances, but then that braid might not have the high abrasion that you want from other braids, you know what I mean? So depending, and also what you can afford, I think makes a big difference.
Absolutely. Price is everything. I can remember many years ago when drop shot hit like a massive craze, we all bought this 4-strand stuff and we got our first little stick and we were flaying the water and not catching much, and it went fuzzy after about a month or so, and it is still pretty strong, but it wasn't the thinnest stuff. And yeah, I think a lot of guys come to very strong conclusions on things like braid and line for that matter.
Correct.
I remember some like, hey, Maxima only king, then double X, where some of us used to be a bit poorer than that and we bought speed spin and whatever alternatives we had. So there's always been very strong opinions around line. What's your current favorite?
Well, listen, I've fished with a couple different braids. I've currently moved over to BOSS Braid, which we're going to be talking about shortly. Very impressed with it. I used to previously use the BOSS Whisper when I was doing a bit of drop shot fishing. I'm doing mainly bait fishing now. So I do BOSS Braid. Grinder braid is one of my choices I do use, which is not on the table at the moment. It's everyday, nice, affordable braid. And then I have fished with some top-end Spectrum braids, but unfortunately, but out of my price range.
Yeah, no, for sure, absolutely. Yeah. I think for a lot of us, when it comes to braid, our initial experiences, we might have been on the wrong breaking strain. Our knots might have not been that great. And I find a lot of guys, like, they'll say, oh, I got a bad batch or something. But they'll never look at their line roller, a cracked guard.
Correct.
Whether they were in the bricks looking for black stem rust and it just didn't handle it in a 20-pound braid. You know, you've kind of got to have a nice all-round approach, and in many ways, I'll be honest, sales is probably what the strongest stamp of approval. Very few brands have solid reviews of braid comparing each other in South Africa.
Yes. I've seen in America, they do quite a lot of testing against each other and stuff like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
But in South Africa, I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, you find very little of our braids online. Look, we're doing one brand braid tonight. Over the year, we'll be tackling the different brands. So if your favorite braid's not here, we will get to you. But let's have a look at it holistically. I think every single brand does produce good braids for the right purpose.
Correct.
What I found as well is just a quick thing, not necessarily on BOSS Braid, but all braids, guys. You might say your one is 0.14 millimeter for 20 pound. I don't know how the guys squeeze the verniers, eh? I mean, almost every one of those scientific braid tests I've seen online, within 50% of the claimed diameter is about right. So my general take on braid is, when you're looking at diameter, you're looking at a guide through the range. If 30 pound is more or less this, I know 40 pounds going up by 0.6 mil. Or,
more like an average.
You know what I mean? It's an averaging out. And where some might claim a 30 pound, but it actually snaps at like 55 pound. So you kind of got to get to know what you're using.
Yeah, a lot of the guys in the US, they call it the US rating, whatever.
Oh,
like
yeah,
that.
No, it's totally.
They always get 10 or 15 pounds extra out their braid somehow. I don't know how.
Very much so.
And then they start using PE ratings and all sorts of very scientific things.
Actually, I'm a PE rating
dude.
I'm a PE rating dude.
We're gonna have to sit down sometime and teach me about that.
Okay, just to throw in the scientific side of braid. PE, basically polyethylene plastic. That's what most braids are made out of.
Yeah, correct.
That's what all these BOSS braids are made out of. The other one is Dyneema. It's just a different material, a little more expensive. The one that made Dyneema famous was your Berkeley braids,
Your whiplashes and
particularly your Black Velvet,
okay.
which is sadly discontinued. A lot of guys are upset about that, but it does push it to a premium price. Okay, but so PE, literally a very narrow thing, a PE rating, like a PE2, more or less £20.
Okay, so it's close to pretty much
PE3 is £30. It kind of marries as well to your rod and reel you're using.
Correct. I've seen that on the rods and reels.
It'll go with a 2-ounce sink on a PE2. So it can be worthwhile looking at. As guys who throw lures quite a lot, we talk about PE.
PE rating, yeah, I've seen that.
Pretty strongly. Okay, so without further ado, should we dive into our...
Yeah, let's have a look at this. I see we've got some BOSS braids on the table. Yeah, a whole lot of different BOSS braids. I've pretty much fished with the slick braid and the whisper braid in my lure days, but I see they've got some other... I don't know if you want to run through them and teach us some things here.
BOSS Braid's been on the South African market for quite a while now. They became very famous in the skinny braid, and that was kind of replaced by the slick braid. Slick is a popular choice, particularly with the non-net guys.
Yeah.
My general take on it, it's got a nice Teflon coating, so it's quite a hardish braid, and it handles that abrasion very well.
Yeah.
So if you're fishing in the rocks, you're fishing for big non-nets, slick is worthwhile looking at.
Yeah.
Where I find the BOSS is probably across the board a little bit different to some brands. When they say they are £30, they're more or less there.
Yeah.
It's not a £50 trying to market itself as a £30. So if you're touching the borderline, should I buy a 30 or 40 from an all-round setup?
Yeah.
maybe go for a 40 pound.
40 pounds, 10 pounds heavier.
Absolutely. Yeah. My experience on that whisper braid is one of the first braids I used properly for rock and surf on a decent spinning setup. And I found the 30 pound I was getting snap-offs rather quickly after a while. But I flayed some pretty rocky areas, and I was looking for black steenbos at night.
Yeah, you're really getting stuck.
And I was using a 5-ounce sinker. And on whisper, 30 pound, that's pushing it a little too hard.
A little too light.
Current high-end braid I'm using at the moment on that setup, quite happy with a 30 pound and a 5-ounce setup. But it's a lot thicker.
Yeah.
So to me, the magic thing about any braid, regardless of brand you look at, is getting the diameter right. I find below a certain diameter, for me it's about 0.28, 0.3, somewhere around there. Anything thinner than that,
it cuts off quite easily. Yeah.
I'm on borrowed time.
Yeah.
I can't winch quite as well.
I'm on the same thing. I used to look at breaking pound. I don't even look at it anymore. I look at the diameter now.
Yep.
If it's too thin, I'd rather stay away for my type of fishing. Obviously, the guys that are fishing lures and other things, they want a thinner braid for
their
absolutely. Purposes. Yeah.
I'll also find on the other side, when you start going rock and surf, if you go up to like a 50 or 65 pound, which sounds really cool, you can definitely feel your distance start fluffing a bit.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite get you that extra 10 or 20 meters. And it just feels a bit, the current drags it more, the wind drags it more. So it's not quite balanced. So I think regardless of braid you choose, getting your balance right there, very important.
No, important. I recently have 40 pound on my main reel I fish with. So I thought, let me try 65 pound for fishing for silvers and black steenbos and things like that. It doesn't work. You know what I mean? As you say, I'm casting 10, 15 meters short. Too much drag in the water, too much drag on a windy day. So for me, that pushing up the extra 25 pounds, the extra bit of thickness, my fishing has definitely gone downhill from there. So I revert back to the 40 pound rather.
Absolutely. So we mentioned the slick braid. That's got the Teflon coating.
Yeah.
Your whisper here is a lot softer. It feels a bit more pliable. It's ideal for lure casting, ideal for finesse type work.
Okay.
You find a stiff braid will tend to throw wind knots quite easily, particularly on the light stuff.
Yeah. When
you're trying to cast lures up into the wind and that. Whereas a slightly more supple braid just generally behaves better in those conditions. It also tends to knot a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Where you find your stiffer braids can cut through your leaders. You just got to do a few extra reps on your knots and that. It's a little more attention to detail on it. But they are giving you more abrasion resistance. What I did find as well in the whisper, I found the color faded off fairly quickly. I was using the orange.
Okay, yeah.
Haven't noticed a particular negative on that. Some guys say, oh, the coating's already come off, but the dye to strength ratio doesn't seem to make...
No, I don't think the dye
I haven't noticed anything on my side personally from that. And I'd happily recommend whisper, but for a rock and surf, rock type conditions, I definitely lean towards the slick braid. What happened about 6 months or so ago, they brought out a new version of slick called Slick HP, which confused guys quite strongly because it's still a slick braid. But HP stands for high pitch. Literally, it's the way they weave the braid.
Yeah, it's a bit tighter.
A bit tighter, gives a rounder profile.
Okay.
So it casts a little better, a little bit smoother through the guides, gives you a little extra bit of distance.
Correct. Okay.
Generally behaves a little bit better in the reel, and more or less the same pricing, so a pretty good deal on it.
Yeah. So, but almost like a premium version of the
Pretty much,
in layman's terms, yeah.
And the other one, which is quite popular as well, is Highlight. Most of the braids we've spoken about here are also available in 300 meters as well as 600s. Just to show you on the 600. But Highlight is a multi-color braid. It's color changing. Us guys who throw a lot of lures, particularly the guys who do slow pitch jigging, vertical jigging, they really enjoy something that changes color. The reason for that, besides controlling your depth, you're kind of monitoring how fast your lure is coming in.
Okay.
You keeping a track of in and out, what my retrieve speed is, but harder to do that on a fixed color braid.
So in every 10 meters, whatever color, whatever meters it changes, they can work out their ratios.
And what's quite cool as well, it actually just looks really pretty.
It does look cool, especially when you've got a fish screaming off.
Absolutely. And the ladies love this stuff. I'll be honest, if you're going to buy your ladies some braid,
is that the one to go for?
Highlight's the one to go for. She
will
not be unhappy. Besides some other brands, there's not a true pink braid, so this is like par for the course.
I used a pink braid once. It was pink for about half a day. It was white after that.
Yeah,
we won't mention the name of the braid though.
And then getting to the finesse braid. That's the little guys in front of me. It's a tiny little roll.
Very small. I was quite surprised by the size.
Believe it or not, 200 meters on there. Superbly good value. I've been using £10 now for close to 2 years. Probably put about 100 hours of casting on it in estuary and rock and surf environments. I'm throwing up to 1.5 ounce lure with it.
That's impressive for
I've had 0 wind knots. And a mate of mine's got a couple of cob now, well over 20 kgs in it. So if you're after a estuary light reel braid,
ultra light for the rocks.
Absolutely. And in the gully, isn't that okay for it as well? It's the kind of thing you're going to use on like a 2.5, 3,000 size reel though. Yeah. You're not going to put your 20 pound there on a 6,000 size reel.
Right, 3 spools on that.
It's a finesse. And good stuff. The guys fishing freshwater as well. Yeah. That'll be a very popular choice. The weird thing is it's a 3-strand. Everything else we've spoken about here has been 8-strand. 8-strand gives you a nice round profile in that. Everything before that many years ago was 4-strand.
Correct.
Still see a little bit of a round kicking around.
Yeah, there's still a bit of 4-strand. Yeah.
4-strand cuts you like crazy. It's like really bad in cutting you.
Sharp.
As sharp as can be. And it's generally, it feels a bit ropey. But the 3-strand, for some crazy reason, just works.
They've got their recipe right on it.
It almost looks like the strands are loose and not tightly woven but it just behaves and keeps going. And so far, 0 complaints.
So you say, like, if that is a good braid, if I want to go target spotties in the river, throwing a
for sure,
V on things like that, something that's got no drag in the water, it's not going to sink.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's a good all-rounder, and trust me, it's about the same price as a 6-pack nowadays. So it's pretty affordable. The other thing that BOSS does as well is they do a 50-meter leader braid. What I quite dig about that, it starts from as low as 60 pound and running all the way up to, I think it's 250 pound.
So you've got a big variety.
And that they only do in the slick as such, and it's as tough as nails. I
like that starting at 60 pound because I do a lot of surf fishing for cob and stuff, so I can fish 60 or 80 pound. I've got a light, I don't need a super heavy leader.
Yeah, you find if you've got a 30 pound mainline, switching up to like 100 or 150 pounds is a bit too much.
Your knots get a bit weird and
sometimes
stuff like that.
Sometimes find something also to go through the guards still. Not every rod's got massive guards.
Correct,
So, but certainly braid leaders are the way a lot of us have gone nowadays. Yeah. And it's a good way of beefing up your tackle. So if you find your 30 pound, every time you've got a fish on, you're getting snapped off, put a braid lead on. Also, when you're like obviously wrapping around your binding finger, if you're fishing binding finger, if you're fishing 30 pound, that little bit of wear, especially if you're in the same casting point. It can do. I must admit, on the better quality, slightly thicker braids, never come across that as an issue. Thinner braids, if you're pushing that thinner diameter, that can be a factor, absolutely. Dean, one thing we haven't really discussed is braid color. Most of the range you see here will be a fairly Lumo orange. Nice high-vis colors. Nice dark green. And I know in the BOSS, and I haven't got a sample here, it's quite a bright yellow or a dark green as well. Like a chartreusey color yellow. It's like, so they give you a high-vis and a low-vis option. 2 different options. Okay. And they've got a multicolor highlight, but they haven't got a million colors like some braids do. What's your braid color of choice? If you go beyond slick, what else have you tried? I prefer the high-vis colors. I do have, as you can see, I don't have the greatest eyes in the world. So I need something that's going to contrast. If I'm down at the sea, when I'm tying my knots, I pretty much need to hold my knots up against either sand dune, a green bush, or the rocks. So I need something that contrasts. So the bright green works very well for me, and the bright yellow works very well for me. Yeah, certainly. I find I'm pretty much the same. Yeah. My knot tying is the factor. If guys are asking what color braid I'd recommend, I normally go like a Luma green or Luma yellow.
Yeah.
That's my go-to colors. But I must admit, I've been fishing darker braids lately, and the dark braids actually sign up well against the surf.
Yeah.
You see them against the skyline pretty well too. And some guys just like to match the color of their tackle. It's a fashion choice.
Yeah.
Some guys will go as far as say, "Oh, yellow one's stronger than a dark one," but I think it's just dye. I'm afraid that's that I file in the old wives' tales category.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe, I just had to throw that in there. So yeah, you've got a nice selection of braids here. What's made BOSS Braid pretty popular is it's consistent, guys. The guys who've used BOSS Braid tend to buy BOSS Braid again. Customer satisfaction, I rank very highly on it. It's also, I've never heard of a bad batch. Guys consistently say, and if you consider the volumes that are sold countrywide, it's a good go-to braid. And in many ways, when guys vote for a braid of choice, their wallet
makes a big difference.
Probably one of the things. So BOSS certainly one of the top-selling braids in the country. I wouldn't say necessarily the top-selling, possibly, I'm not sure. We'd have to look at some numbers outside of our store. But a good buy.
Yeah.
All of these braids are top value. Briefly though, a lot of guys buy a 300 meter braid. What do you think about buying 600s?
Well, I use 600 on my bigger reels, like my 10,000s and stuff, because I'm putting 550. I prefer not to have a join knot, but up to you, especially on my surf reels where I'm not losing braid. But then on my reels I'm fishing with the bricks, with sometimes I prefer to have a join knot, so I can just replace the top. It all depends which way you go.
I'm with you on that. Yeah. I've got quite comfortable with joints in recent times, but initially I like to have one long run.
Yeah.
What I quite enjoy is if you've got a 600 meter, even if you're spooling 2 reels, you can duck like 200 meters on one, 400 on another.
Yes.
So you've got a bit of options around that. Because nothing worse than sitting with 80 meters of braid, because that you tend to throw away.
Yeah.
That's
the wastage.
It's pointless. What I quite like about them as well, their 600 meters are often the price of a 300 and many other braids.
Yeah.
So very good value for money.
So rand per meter, you're paying a bit less.
Absolutely. And a good quality, well-spooled braid for the price. So I can't fault it in that case. Just a brief run through, Dean, what I think, and you can gladly give your input as well. Advantages of BOSS Braid, price.
100% price.
What I find as well, pretty consistent. It's decent stuff. There's no bad batches. I've yet to come across a spool that's spooled weirdly with knots in it, so a consistent product. It's quality. And what I find is pretty true. When they say a 30 pound on here, you're getting 30 pound, guys. When they say a 50 pound, it's a 50 pound. They're probably one of the closer brands to diameter versus packaging compared to some out there.
They're correct. And also readily available all the time.
Absolutely.
Because I find other braids, I'd start using a 30 pound in it. 2 weeks later, you can't get the stuff. It's coming to the country, it's not in the country.
Absolutely, yeah. Speak to Bob. Hey, Bob, can you? I haven't got stock.
Correct.
That happens quite often as well. What I do like as well, it's got a decent selection of range. There's characteristics in each one here that suit individual anglers' needs.
All your facets of fishing are covered by the range.
If you're a lure angler, if you're a shark angler, if you're a normal rock and surf angler, you can find a BOSS Braid that'll suit you. So you cool.
I'm 100%.
Any disadvantages you can think of on the braid?
I can't think of too much. Listen, I've been using, as I say, the Whisper braid. I've used the slick braid. I've got nothing negative to say about it, or not negative, but
no, cool.
Nothing that I can come to
my take, and I'm handpicking, is most of your budget braids, and BOSS falls under that category. You're not quite getting the coatings and finishings that you're getting on a top-end braid. So things like your color fading off.
Yeah.
The braid may be getting a little bit more abrasive.
A bit frayed and things like that.
Not necessarily frayed, but just not as smooth.
Okay.
You find a really top-end braid, the stuff I can't even afford, will stay slicker through your guides a lot longer.
Okay.
That mainly is the lure casting thing.
Yes,
the guys who throw a lot of lures look for that smoothness.
Yeah, they're doing a couple hundred to 1,000 casts in a day.
And as soon as that's gone, they tend to toss the stuff and buy new.
Braid.
We can't afford that.
Yeah.
I can't afford that. No other real negatives. Some guys might say it's not in their favorite color.
Yeah.
But beyond that, maybe try the highlight. It's nice and bright and colorful.
All the colors.
I think certainly hard to fault. Very hard to fault.
100%. I totally agree with you there.
So my rating, largely based on value and quality that you get for your price, I'm giving it 4 out of 5 stars.
100% agree there. So welcome to Q&A. It's a weekly question and answer. We will take your questions in and be answered. So I'm going to hand over to Don from Bulmoria Fishing Tackle to take care of that for us.
Yeah, last week on our Facebook post, K Maharaj I'm assuming from KZN, he was talking about what lures she should be casting from the shore besides paddle tails. Now, I think a lot of guys throw paddle tails. A lot of guys think that paddle tails are the answer to all lure casting. And they see the cob coming out cast for cast, and they think paddle tail is it.
The only way to go.
I must admit, paddle tail can be hard work, eh?
Yeah.
You've got to know your spots extremely well. And it works very well, my generalization, in the rockier areas. You've got nice sandy gutter and that.
Yeah.
Closer in work, it's ideal for that. Off the beach, not quite as much. Paddle tail would be often my go-to low light conditions, certainly your river mouths and that.
Things like that.
It's very productive for cob. Cob do like eating them. But cob are not the only species you catch.
On lure.
Sometimes cob don't like eating them. So it's nice to have a variety. What he asks is what other lures we should have. Firstly, we're going to go into your paddle tail. This is one done by
Cob
Factor. It's got a nicely weight, nice little split ring there, really nice quality hook that doesn't straighten. We typically call this a weedless setup. You can throw it amongst the bricks.
Not going to hook up.
Not going to hook up all the time. Guys get really intricate in colors, some of their favorite colors. There are a lot of theories on that. We'll delve into that in another episode.
Okay.
But a good all-round lure. Certainly you can catch fish on it. What it doesn't do, though, it doesn't give you an option of a fast retrieve. Doesn't have any surface splash.
Yes.
Kind of hard to work the column.
Yeah.
When we're throwing lures, we like to say the column. I like something can drag on the sand sometimes. I like something can work on the top water.
And
I like a retrieve that I can actually maybe drop through the entire water column. Because sometimes I've been cob like to feed on top.
Correct, I've seen
Found that quite often. So in saying that, what other lures would I carry? The main big five lures. If I only had to choose 5 lures. Most of us got a lot more than that. Your top water plugs. GT ice cream is probably the most famous brand.
Without a doubt, yeah.
Put it on top, nice big splash.
Yeah.
Calls fish from a long distance. So if your lure splashing along and a cob or a leery hears that from 20, 30 meters away, you will come zoning in on it. And I've proven that time and time again. It also works really well for shad, guys. This will pull your larger shad out of the shoal. They come up to the top, and you can have a lot of fun on them. Time of day to throw them, early morning, like pre-dawn, and into your evening.
So your low light conditions.
Low light conditions ideal. Works across the entire coast, from Cape Town all the way up to KZN. Yeah. Gets GT on them. You can get a variety of game fish. Even cob in rough, foamy conditions do latch onto these pretty well. What I do when I start a session, I'll often start on top.
And then work your way down.
Tends to see, hey, is there anything big around here that's really hungry?
Yeah.
Then the lure most guys neglect. Yeah. But once the guys figure them out, they latch on.
And that's my favorite.
Bucktail. Bucktails come in various sizes and weights. What we're looking at here is around about a 1.5 ounce. You find most setups can comfortably cast a 1.5, 2 ounce. The other reason for that is you can cast them for hours.
Correct.
Lure casting, you don't go out for half an hour and bag 5 fish.
Yeah.
The guys who do well at lure casting are often spending 3-4 hours in a session.
Hundreds of casts per fish.
If not longer. But at least you're not catching barbel. We're looking for that larger game fish. I'm looking for a yellowtail at the moment. And I'm quite happy to do 1,000 casts till I catch that fish. Bucktails, they cast a long way. They've got a nice big tail feather here. This is one by Spro, but there are various brands available. Color, anything with a contrast, a pink, green and white. So we tend to look for a contrasting type color is good. Very effective in working in different retrieves.
Yeah, I've seen the guys twitch them with
absolutely,
twitch along the bottom, very slow twitches.
And your estuary type thing, you can literally fish it paddle sail style where you drag in the bottom. This whole tail feather behaves kind of like a fly, saltwater fly. It works extremely well. They also respond well to lift, drop. So you can picture it's coming up in your column and dropping down, giving you a bit of coverage. You can also sweep them rather fast.
Yeah.
So pause, it drops and it sweeps up. That longer pull, the leery love latching onto. One of our good customers in Bulmoria here, he was out the other day. He pretty much only throws these, got into some bonnies on them, and then got a Dorado.
Oh, nice.
So trailing this behind the boat, you got a decent sized Dorado. So yes, fish do chow bucktail. Main advantage of them, they throw a good deal further than the paddle tail does.
Especially in windy conditions, you can throw much more accurately.
You're getting an extra 20 meters odd with minimum effort. Yeah. Moving on from that, which is my current favorite at the moment, are your stick baits. I I think stick baits on the South African lure casting scene are the next big thing.
Coming up, yeah.
If you watch any of those Australian and New Zealand channels, the guys getting those big kingies, big yellowtail and that, they're throwing stick baits.
All on stick baits.
Either floating or sinking. In our local conditions here, floating doesn't do too much. We want something that can get a bit further. They're running from like a 1 ounce up to about a 3 ounce. The clone range in particular, very popular at the moment. The strange thing is the bigger fish seem to like a stick bait.
Yeah.
All the really large shad, large leary, larger cob, 30 kg plus, you seldom get them on a paddle tail. You do, but not as often.
Yeah, you don't hear of a big cob on a paddle tail too often.
But your stick baits, you're doubling your casting distance you're getting on a paddle tail. Easily. Minimum effort. And your retrieve, you can mix it up quite a lot as well. Again, very much the same as a bucktail. Do the bottom drag, do the jerky drag, do a slow retrieve, fast retrieve. It gives you a lot of options in a single lure.
As you say, you can hit all those different depths in your water column.
And you can do a slow retrieve, or you can really whip it through fast. So if a fish is lazy and on the feed, you can normally inspire a strike.
Yeah.
Color, quite a spectrum of colors available. To me, the first rule of any lure we're looking at here is the fish has got to see it.
Yeah.
So it must be contrast. You must see visible color.
Or in clear water, something that's a bit more natural, I suppose. Yeah, depends.
Sometimes, the debates about whether fish are colorblind or not is still
out
ongoing.
there.
It's ongoing. Pink is probably the most popular color, but worldwide, chartreuse, which is your yellow, can't go wrong on chartreuse as well. Anything white, so redhead works very well in the Eastern Cape here. I think mainly because our waters are often not quite as clean. So have a couple in your bag, but the main thing is have a variety of lures. You don't want 20 paddle tails. You rather want 2 paddle tails and 10 other ones. So you want different lures for different conditions. Which brings us to the good old spoon.
The good old faithful.
Absolutely. You know, spoons they've been thrown around the country for years. And they basically come in 2 styles. So this is a Toby spoon, which is probably the most popular. The guys who go for shad in particular, this is the go-to. What's nice about them is kind of like paddle tail style. You cast out, just reel in, it'll do a wag, wag, wag on the way through.
It'll sort its own action out.
Absolutely. You do get the more expensive ones which have 2 spoons joined together, give it more of a rattle. The guy's saying low light for cob, that works dynamite. The other style of spoon is a bullet type spoon. It's a bit longer and then allows you to cast further. But you've got to put the effort in making your rod talk.
You need to actually work the spoon itself.
Very similar to a bucktail. You're not just slowly cranking it in. But try a variety of lures. Mr. Maharaj, you're in the ideal place in KZN there. You guys get a huge range of species and well worthwhile throwing a variety of lures. I tend to change lures about every 20 or 30 casts. To me, if I've flayed more than 30 casts in a lure, haven't had a chase, I'll happily change the color or change the size. Absolutely. You can't just throw the same thing all day.
I think also when it comes to lure fishing, a lot of guys just think you put a lure, you go down and you catch a fish. Maybe you get that day like it, you got to put the hours in, you got to put the costs in. I think that's the...
Very much so. I mean, but in my experience, all my big fish, my really big fish, my trophy fish, have come on lures. I don't catch barbel when I'm throwing lures.
No.
And the other big plus for you guys who are thinking about getting to lure casting, it's like going to the gym. You can slowly but surely work out on the stomach. Your casting practice, your muscle memory from throwing, your distance you can throw grows dramatically from... And it pushes your tackle and your knots and that to a different level as well. So I still do a lot of bait fishing as well, but trust me, I sometimes get bored. I'm sitting there, come home without a bite. I'd rather come home without a bite than I've thrown lure for 2 hours.
Also, the lure makes it convenient. If you got 30 minutes or 45 minutes after work to fish, you can grab your rod, your little bag, shoot down. You don't have to pack up.
Yeah, for sure. It's nice and clean. The wife doesn't moan. We come home all smelly, and there's some bait left in the fridge and that kind of thing. The last thing on lure casting is that it's actually pretty cost effective. A lot of guys see the price of a lure and 100 turn around a lure and think, wow, it's expensive. But that lure, unless you're finding bricks all the time, can give you a couple of years use. The average bait we spend on a session is 100 turn around.
2 or 3 snap ups, a sinker, a hook.
Yeah, but your bait, once your swords defrost, they're gone.
They're finished,
You know, once your squid defrosts, you throw it away. It's so long term, having a few lures in the bag. Even you guys that bait fish, if the shad suddenly come on or there's some yellowtail there, have a few lures, guys.
Switch over.
Absolutely.
You get the better fish out.
Absolutely. You'll catch the larger ones in the shoal. Very much so. So hope that answers you guys' question. Please any fishing related questions, guys, feel free to ask us. We'll try to give you our honest input, and we look forward to hearing from you next week.
Next week we'll be back for
Yep.
Tackle Tuesday.
Okay.
So join us next week. We will be having a look at leader line.
Yeah, we're going to look at some good mono leaders, some good fluorocarbon leaders, traces as well, what diameters we like to fish with, and what brands we rate as the best value for your money. But as for BOSS Braid, if we wrap this up, we can comfortably say,
Okay.
fish like a boss.